Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Dallas Mavericks made one of the most shocking trades in the history of professional sports. Also, is there any reason for the Lakers to think they might have acquired damaged goods? And just because De'Aaron Fox is headed out doesn't mean the Kings are headed for a rebuild.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
While a lot of people were sleeping on Saturday night, the Dallas Mavericks made one of the most stunning trades in NBA history, in sports, in recent memory, to be sure, in sports. Nick Angstadt from Locked On Mavs was certainly not asleep. Frankly, I don't know when Nick does sleep. Nick, let's just start with the top line. What was your reaction when you saw the alert, and why was it, I can't believe Shams got hacked?
For all of us that cover sports in whatever sport, you listen to Locked On Sports Today, you hear a bunch of us that cover sports in different ways. We all have people in our lives that don't know anything about sports. And whenever you're hanging out with them, you have to try to explain things to them in a way that would make sense. Yeah. I'm sitting in the kitchen of my friend's house, and she's making a cake or something for her kids. They're going to have their 1-year-old birthday the next day. And I pull up my phone, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, did somebody die?" And it was like that, where that was my instant reaction of just everything changed. It absolutely changed the face of the Dallas Mavericks, the franchise, and honestly, the city of Dallas.
And we saw some people who voiced their opinion outside of the arena last night, brought the casket with them to let Nico and Jason Kidd know just how they feel about this move. I'm glad we're doing this now and not Saturday night at midnight, because we have had a chance to hear now from the Mavericks. We've had a chance to hear from some of the reporting. So the best that you've been able to parse what you believe, what maybe you believe a little bit less, about the motivations of how this all went down.
I did an episode on Locked On Mavs today where I said, all right, I'm going to take everything at face value. And here are the things that they told us. Here are the things that they said are the reasons why they had wanted to move on from Luka Doncic. They said he wasn't a great culture fit. He didn't add to the culture of the team. Mm-hmm. They said they were concerned about his conditioning, continuing to have conditioning issues over and over again, which, okay, there are some concerns there. His injury concerns and things about that. He's had an issue with the left leg, multiple different issues, a calf, a thigh, an ankle, all kinds of different things in that left leg for over a year now, all through the playoffs last year. He had it. There were concerns like that. There are also concerns that Nico kind of threw in there at the end that maybe Luka wouldn't sign the huge Supermax extension, or the Mavericks didn't want to sign him to the Supermax extension. And then if he didn't do that, then all of a sudden the Mavs are on a timer because he only has 1 year left next year, then a player option after that. They're on a timer to try and trade him, and maybe your leverage is gone. But all that being said, Peter, none of that is good enough. You deal with all those other things, the conditioning, the complaining to refs, the anything else with Luka Doncic. Think about all the things that star players have done in the NBA. Jimmy Butler was going on different planes than his team. Like Russell Westbrook was like almost doing a different practice because he was showing up at different times. There's been so many different things with star players. You just deal with it. There have been, I went and counted on that show, I think 14 legitimate teams that have never had a player as good as Luka Doncic on their team. You don't trade that player.
14, yeah. I mean, that seems right. That could even be low, frankly, given where the trajectory of Luka Doncic could go in all of this. So as you try and move forward here, we also heard from the Mavericks, they wanted Anthony Davis. That was part of this. The question is going to be on the return. If you're going to trade Luka, then you need to get Texas with a $sign back. And the perception from the outside is that they didn't do that. So from your perspective, why not?
Well, there's no state taxes in Texas, so it's a different exchange rate from California.
That's true. Yeah.
Nico Harrison was a Nike guy and was high up in Nike and pitched a lot of guys, was Kobe's Nike guy, was big in those circles, had a lot of relationships. That is supposed to be his superpower coming in to run the Dallas Mavericks when Mark Cuban brought him in, was to have these relationships with players. It has worked out incredibly well with Kyrie Irving. I think Nico Harrison is one of the reasons why that relationship with Kyrie has worked out as well as it has, that Kyrie has been awesome. And there's been literally no issue and has been nothing but a leader and an awesome player for the Dallas Mavericks. Nico Harrison also, there's this viral video that goes around every once in a while of Nico Harrison hanging out with Anthony Davis, a young Anthony Davis, at the Team USA practice before Anthony Davis played in the Olympics when he was just coming out of college. Nico Harrison has had a long-standing relationship with Anthony Davis. There have been many Mavs-Lakers games where we have sat and watched Nico Harrison and Anthony Davis talking before a game, and we go, oh, look at that. The Mavs may trade for Anthony Davis. Well, they finally did. But we never would have thought that they had sent Luka back, because it was always, how will Luka fit with Anthony Davis? How will the Mavs pull it off? Well, apparently it happened with Luka, and the package is just, it's not good enough. Anthony Davis is a great player. He's going to start the All-Star game. Nico Harrison is now traded for 2 All-Star starters and Kyrie and Anthony Davis, which is a very strange thing. But he's not as good as Luka Doncic, and he's a great two-way player. He's going to make the Mavs defense elite, which is going to be fun and interesting to watch. At least you'll have something to watch as a team. The team is not completely gutted, but the package to get back for Luka is the worst star trade in NBA history.
So can this still work out in some sort of not net positive, but in a way that is not going to be totally gutting for Mavericks fans?
They have to win the title, and their window looks like, with Kyrie at 33, Anthony Davis about to turn 32, both of them injury histories, they have to win the title in like 3 years. That's basically their window. And Kyrie has a player option this summer. So stick to Locked On Mavs, and we'll tell you all about that all throughout the offseason, because this team never sleeps, ever.
Well, unfortunately for you, that means you cannot sleep either, but we appreciate all of the work that you put in, Nick. You can stay up to date all year on the new look Dallas Mavericks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Mavericks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up. How do Luka and LeBron fit? Before we answer that, Ohio State lost another coach. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy. How about a Broadway show? Can't wait to take my kids to Broadway. The energy, the excitement, it's unforgettable. Seeing live performers, it's the best. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Chip Kelly is leaving Ohio State to coach with Pete Carroll on the Raiders.
Chip Kelly is the latest Ohio State assistant on the move as he's heading back to the NFL to be the offensive coordinator of the Las Vegas Raiders. And just like Jim Knowles leaving and just like Justin Frye leaving, Chip Kelly going away from Ohio State is a massive loss. He's one of the best offensive minds in college football. Him and Ryan Day are both personal friends, which added to how big it was to get Chip Kelly to Ohio State. And in this year, it seemed to work in the way that anybody would want it to work. At the end of the day, Ohio State won a national championship during Chip Kelly's lone year in Columbus, Ohio. Now, moving forward for Ohio State, you got to put trust in Ryan Day. Ryan Day has made sure that he figures out how to replace coaches, and now it's going to be year 7 for Ryan Day. He's made some bad hires previously, but also he's made some pretty good hires and promotions, and I think you can trust Ryan Day to make sure that he gets this hire correct as well.
No, not our FanDuel pal Kay Adams. Clayton Adams is the new Cowboys offensive coordinator
now. And so I think, it makes a ton of sense. And we've touched on this a little bit, but I think it really makes a lot of sense to kind of structure the offense this way, where you have a play calling head coach who clearly is a passing game expert. He was a passing game coordinator with Jacksonville. Obviously, that's more his forte as a former quarterback. And then you build a strong infrastructure, right? Because I think that's the difference between what he's doing and what we're doing now versus what McCarthy did, where McCarthy got an offensive line coach, and then he had a run game coordinator. But by making your actual offensive coordinator the offensive line coach and sort of the run game coordinator, and also he's going to be in charge, sounds like, a protections as well, basically just a pseudo offensive line coach plus, I think it gives more emphasis and importance to the run game, which and I think it's going to allow them to kind of major in the run game in a way that they were probably minoring in it last season. And I think that's going to, hopefully pay huge dividends for this team.
On the hardwood, the Pistons put together a total win against the Bulls.
But how about the win from the Detroit Pistons this afternoon at the LCA? My goodness. You talk about total team effort. You talk about dominating the paint. This was a character-building win for the Detroit Pistons because they imposed their will. They stuck it to the Chicago Bulls this evening. And the Bulls, to their credit, hung around, found a way, that sort of thing, not to get blown out tonight. But the Pistons came out and were a little sluggish early. You got to give Chicago a lot of credit because they had the lead after the first quarter of play, 35-30. And then the Pistons really turned up the defense, and that fueled the offense. How many times do we see that from this Pistons team? They outscore the Bulls 34-19 in that second quarter, propelling them to the lead at the halftime break, and then parlay that into the third quarter. Chicago comes back with a strong third quarter frame, but the Pistons right there with them, 32-31, and then an even played game all the way in the second half. But it was that second quarter that allowed the Pistons to go in front and stay in front.
As far as trying to figure out the why for the Lakers, it seems pretty straightforward. A team offered them one of the 3 or 4 best players in the league. They said yes. Andy Kamenetsky from Locked On Lakers joins me now. Andy, any more complicated than that with this Luka for AD swap?
Well, yes and no. I mean, no in the sense that if the Lakers are offered a superstar, the answer is always yes, because that's what the Lakers do. I mean, Luka would be desired by all the teams around the league, but in particular, the Lakers, they rarely, if ever, if never, say no to a superstar. Like, that is the franchise DNA. In terms of it being more complicated, I do think, and this was, Brian and my immediate reaction emergency podcast that we did about 30 minutes after the news broke, my first reaction when I heard this, to be totally honest, was, what does Dallas know? Because teams do not trade MVP caliber players like Luka just entering their prime. He will be 26 at the end of February without a reason. Like, this is not something that is done by all accounts. This is not something Luka was about to ask for. He was not looking to be traded. This was nothing, clearly, as you could see from the reaction across the league, that anybody anticipated. This was proactive on Dallas's side. And Dallas knows Luka better than anybody else. So again, my immediate reaction, even upon the excitement, even before the excitement of imagining all that can be now in the future with Luka, was, what does Dallas know? Why are they doing this? Like, why are they instigating this?
Yeah, and there was that immediate reporting. Tim McMahon at ESPN reported that Luka was up to 270, and that's 6'7", 270. We're heading up in the NFL draft, like we're talking about defensive end numbers, not usually point guard numbers in the NBA.
That might be heavier than Anthony Davis.
Oh, I think there's no doubt it's heavier than Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I think that's bigger than Anthony Davis. I would want to know,
put LeBron and Luka on the scale next to each other. That's what I would like to see.
Maybe the Lakers just traded for the center that Anthony Davis wanted.
Yeah, maybe. The risk part of this, I mean, we can't act like there is zero risk. On the other hand, it seems like the Lakers have done it again in terms of going from superstar to superstar to superstar. Like, I don't know that we've ever seen a run like this. And regardless, if you're the Lakers, aren't you going, okay, maybe he's not as committed as we want him to be, and maybe he is 270, but everyone in the NBA would be going, we'll fix him. Don't worry about it. Dallas. Come on, we'll fix him. We'll take it.
Again, like I said, as much as you can make the star bleeper jokes about the Lakers because they write themselves, the truth is every team around the league would be lining up for this opportunity, or at the very least would heavily consider it. And Luka is offensively a transcendent talent. I mean, he is the closest thing we've seen to LeBron in terms of a guy who can be a heliocentric offensive machine all unto himself in terms of scoring, in terms of generating points and baskets for teammates. Like, he doesn't obviously have LeBron's size, speed, power, and athleticism. I mean, like, nobody does. Like, you maybe the closest comp would be Wilt, and even then the skill sets are different. But in terms of the way a guy operates at a nuclear level offensively on the court and really is an engine unto himself, there's really been nothing like this since LeBron. I mean, maybe if you want to throw Nikola Jokic into that type of comparison, and it's a very different player type, but Luka is a truly transcendent talent. And if he is committed to the conditioning and can stay healthy, and the Lakers can make the moves, down the road, because obviously he and LeBron are only going to be playing together for so many years. Like, this is seismic for the Lakers. And it's also, I think, important to remember that the Lakers had been in this position where I had talked about this a lot on Locked On Lakers over the last couple of weeks. They needed to pick a lane. Like, they needed to either go all in for LeBron and Anthony Davis, because there's no point in having LeBron at 40 and Anthony Davis on the back end of his prime together if you're not willing to commit to it, or they needed to start the process of moving forward from this era. And I will admit, I never anticipated the lane that they would pick would be Luka Doncic, because nobody thought that was possible. But it is the Lakers picking a lane. Like, they have their path mapped out moving forward. It's going to be a little bit so awkward, interesting, exciting, all of the above in terms of the LeBron and Luka together piece of this. But they know their future now moving forward. And in that sense, they have a lot of questions potentially answered. How this is going to work moving forward is going to be fascinating to watch. I got to think that they're going to be trying to make more moves. Respectfully, Jackson Hayes is not the answer at the 5. So they need to find another center. They need to figure out some defensive questions. Like, Max Christie, I think, is a sneaky, underappreciated piece of this trade. Like, Max Christie was playing extremely well as looking like a future bargain at his salary, as legit 3-and-D wing who's capably handled a lot of tough assignments this season. Like, they're going to have to right now, LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, Rui, center X, like that group ain't stopping anybody. Like, there's a lot that needs to be figured out, but at the same time, it's exciting as hell, man. I can't deny that.
You can stay up to date all year on the LA Lakers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lakers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, De'Aaron Fox is headed out, but Sacramento may not be rebuilding. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bet as the game unfolds to feel the thrill from kickoff to final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is incredibly easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's just icing on the cake. And one bet you could look at, well, there's a lot of prop bets you could look at. How about the Super Bowl to score the first touchdown? FanDuel has Saquon Barkley plus 420 to be the first TD scorer. Those are the shortest odds. Jalen Hurts second at plus 650. Travis Kelce third at 8-1. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. The Sacramento Kings have joined the Dallas Mavericks this year in hitting a weird reset button. De'Aaron Fox is headed to San Antonio, where he reportedly wanted to go. Sacramento may not be done, though, and also may not be in full rebuild mode.
But here is the full final trade. The San Antonio Spurs get De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin from the Sacramento Kings. Fox goes where he wants. The Spurs get their star guard to pair with Victor Wembanyama, and they still have a ton of assets left over to continue to improve upon that big two, that star duo in San Antonio. Look out, Western Conference. I think the Spurs are going to be unbelievable. What do the Kings get? Well, let's talk about the Bulls too, because the Bulls were a third team in this deal. The Chicago Bulls get Zach Collins and Trey Jones from the San Antonio Spurs. Kevin Huerter is no longer a Sacramento King. He is now in Chicago. And the Bulls get their 2025 first round pick back from the San Antonio Spurs. What did the Kings get, do you ask? Well, Zach LaVine is a Sacramento King, and from the San Antonio Spurs, the player that the Sacramento Kings got, Sidy Cissoko. They also got 6 total picks in this trade. The 3 first-rounders are as follows. The 2025 Charlotte Hornets first-round pick, which is top 14 protected. The 2027 San Antonio Spurs first-round pick, which is unprotected. And the 2031 Minnesota Timberwolves first-round pick, which is also unprotected. The 3 seconds that the Kings got, a 2025 Chicago Bulls second-rounder, a 2028 Denver Nuggets second-rounder, and the Kings get their own 2028 second-round pick back. Let me tell you, getting to this point was exhausting, right? I don't claim to be an NBA insider. I'm not up there with the Shams and the Chris Haynes and those guys, the Sam Amics of the world. But I have been keeping as close of tabs on this entire De'Aaron Fox trade saga in Sacramento as I can over the last week, or as I could. And I shared with you literally everything that I could possibly share. There were so many moving parts to this deal, and so many things that were constantly changing by the day, by the hour, by the minute. One of the things that was most consistent throughout this entire negotiation process is the San Antonio Spurs kind of lowballing the Sacramento Kings, right? It was pretty well known right from the very beginning that Stephon Castle was not going to be included in this deal, or the Spurs were going to do everything in their power to not include Stephon Castle. While I heard he wasn't necessarily untouchable, there weren't many scenarios where the Spurs were going to include him in this deal. They clearly felt like they didn't have to. And considering that Sidy Cissoko was the only piece that they had to give to the Kings to get this trade done, I know they gave up 2 more pieces in Zach Collins and Trey Jones to the Chicago Bulls, but considering those were the only players that they had to move in this deal, the Spurs playing hardball worked.
And finally, Mavericks fans are understandably mad. But shout out to the fans that brought a casket to the arena on Sunday. A couple of fans carried a casket that was painted in the Mavericks colors and had the Mavs logo on it. The good news is the Dallas GM, Nico Harrison, totally read the room in the pregame press conference. Or he didn't.
All right, I'll open it up. Thanks for everybody for coming. Jay, is it normally this crowded for your pregame speeches?
No, they don't want to hear about everybody who's out.
Someone should tell them if you propose a trade and they laugh, they're laughing at you, not with you. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, we begin the breakdown of what to expect from Super Bowl 59 from New Orleans. We'll be there all week. So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.